welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So, I want you to imagine for a moment that you have this incredibly demanding, intensely stressful government career.
Right.
You've trained for years, your whole livelihood depends entirely on it, and you're operating in this environment where, well, where a single mistake can have catastrophic consequences.
Really catastrophic.
Yeah, and then virtually overnight, that career just vanishes. The whole path forward is completely erased.
God.
Just gone. And most people in that situation, they might scramble for a similar desk job or maybe head back to school to retrain.
That would be the logical move, yeah.
Right. But the subject of our mission today decided to replace that high-stakes government career by sitting down at a green felt table and playing a game of cards.
It is just a phenomenal pivot, truly. When you look at the raw data of his life laid out, this remarkable story emerges about surviving and really thriving in completely unpredictable high-variance environments.
Exactly. So the mission today is to explore the incredible life, the strategic resilience, and just the sheer adaptability of John Cernuto.
Famously known as Miami John.
Miami John, yes. An American professional poker player who passed away recently in February of 2025 at the age of 81.
A true legend of the game.
Absolutely. And to set the parameters for you listening, everything we are analyzing today comes entirely from a single source.
His official Wikipedia biography.
Right. We're going to look at how a guy with no traditional background in the game went on to win over $6.2 million in live tournament winnings.
Wow.
And earned the title of the Iron Man of poker.
Building a bankroll of over $6 million in live earnings is a staggering achievement, particularly when you consider the era in which he started.
Yeah, the landscape was so different then.
Completely different. I mean, he wasn't grinding multi-table online tournaments from his bedroom to build that number. He was doing it the hard way, face-to-face.
Across decades.
Right, across decades of shifting paradigms in poker theory.
Well, let's go back to the catalyst for that journey. Because Cernuto was born in Jersey City, New Jersey on January 11th, 1944.
Okay.
And he eventually became an alumnus of Florida State University. But his initial profession was, it was far removed from casino floors.
Very far removed.
He worked as an air traffic controller.
That profession demands a very specific cognitive load.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
You're sitting in a dark radar room or a tower, and you're managing the trajectories of massive metal tubes flying through the sky at hundreds of miles an hour.
The stakes literally could not be higher.
Exactly. The stress levels are famously off the charts, and decision fatigue is just a constant threat.
Which brings us to 1981.
Right.
The infamous air traffic controllers strike. And I want to be extremely clear here for you listening, regardless of where anyone stands on the politics of President Ronald Reagan firing them, from a purely historical and factual standpoint.
We are absolutely taking no sides here.
None at all. We are simply reporting the events from the source material. We're bringing this up because this was the exact moment Cernuto's career was forcibly wiped off the board.
His path in aviation was permanently blocked.
He had to pivot, and he turned to poker as his full-time profession.
This raises an important question: why poker?
Yeah, why not accounting?
Exactly. On the surface, directing airplanes and playing a card game seem like they belong in entirely different universes. But if you dig into the cognitive requirements, the parallels are actually astounding.
How so?
Well, consider the mental fortitude required to be an air traffic controller. You need elite pattern recognition. You need to be able to process a dozen shifting variables simultaneously.
Sure.
And above all, you need to maintain absolute, unwavering calm under immense pressure.
I see the parallel with processing variables, but sitting in a dark radar room is highly solitary, right? It's highly structural.
Very regimented.
Right. But poker is incredibly social. It's manipulative, and it's often totally chaotic. So how did a guy trained in strict aviation protocols adapt to the psychological warfare of staring down professional card sharks?
Because he was essentially applying his radar-tracking mental bandwidth to process table dynamics.
But that makes sense.
Instead of tracking altitude and airspeed, he was tracking bet-sizing tells, positional disadvantages, and player tendencies all at once, and doing it without experiencing decision fatigue.
Right, he already had the stamina.
Exactly. In poker, you are constantly calculating pot odds and implied odds on the fly while masking your own internal stress. Cernuto took the psychological hardware he developed in the control tower and just applied it to the chaos of a high-stakes poker table.
It's a brilliant transfer of analytical skills.
It really is. He took an environment most people view purely as a gamble and turned it into a math and tracking problem.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at his early career, he didn't just survive that transition. He weaponized those analytical skills almost immediately.
He hit the ground running.
He really did. His first major victory came in 1988 at the Amarillo Slim Super Bowl of Poker. He won the $1,000 seven-card stud event, taking home a cash prize of $58,000.
And we have to contextualize that. Amarillo Slim's Super Bowl of Poker was the second most prestigious tournament series in the world at that time.
Right behind the World Series of Poker.
Right. So winning a preliminary event there proved you could navigate a really tough old-school field. And doing it in seven-card stud, a game that requires immense memory and tracking of folded dead cards, perfectly aligns with his air traffic control background.
Because you have to remember every exposed card.
You have to remember every single card that has been exposed to accurately calculate your live outs. If you lose focus for one hand, your math is completely off.
And he proved that that wasn't a fluke the very next year. Looking at his tournament records for 1989, he got his first cash in the WSOP.
The big leagues.
The big leagues. He made the final table of the $5,000 seven-card stud event, finishing in fourth place. But look at the lineup he was sitting with. Humberto Brenes, Gabe Kaplan, Don Holt, and David Sklansky.
Incredible.
He was at a final table with Sklansky in '89. I mean, Sklansky was literally writing the foundational math on poker theory during that era.
The books everyone else learned from.
Exactly. While Cernuto was relying on his fresh instincts to survive, it is a fascinating clash of styles.
To navigate a $5,000 buy-in field, which, by the way, was an astronomical entry fee in 1989, and end up at a final table with Sklansky and Brenes so early in his professional career, shows this underlying strategic framework was already mathematically sound.
He was already playing at a master level.
He wasn't just playing his cards, he was playing the players and the structure of the tournament itself.
And that structure is exactly where he built his legacy. What's absolutely fascinating about his career log is a specific statistic that spans generations.
This is the mind-blowing part.
From 1992 all the way to 2023, John Cernuto finished in the money in at least one World Series of Poker tournament every single year.
31 consecutive years of cashing at the World Series of Poker.
Just let that sink in for a second.
In a culture that frequently obsesses over overnight success, or a single viral tournament run, John Cernuto offers a masterclass in extreme, decades-long endurance. Think about what that means for you listening, to show up and perform at that level for over 3 decades.
Think about the paradigm shifts in poker theory during that 31-year stretch alone. He started cashing in the early 90s, the era of information scarcity. You couldn't just log on and watch a Twitch stream or buy a training course online.
No, you had to learn by losing money to veterans in the card room.
Right. He survived that underground old-school era, and then he had to survive the moneymaker boom of the early 2000s.
Which completely changed the ecosystem.
Completely. Suddenly, thousands of amateur players flooded the game. They brought completely unorthodox and unpredictable dynamics to the tables. The tight strategies that worked against professionals in 1995 would get you eliminated by some wild, aggressive amateur in 2005.
And then he had to adapt again.
Yes, in the 2010s and 2020s to the modern solver era.
And math kids.
The math kids. He was in his 70s, playing against a generation of kids who grew up memorizing game theory, optimal charts, using advanced mathematics and computer simulations to balance their ranges perfectly.
Through every single one of those massive generational shifts in how the game was played, Cernuto just kept showing up, recalibrating his strategy and surviving the bubble.
It takes a certain kind of mindset to do that.
It requires an incredible absence of ego, to realize that the game has passed your old strategies by, and to humble yourself enough to learn the new math.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because along with all those consistent cashes we just talked about, he secured 3 WSOP gold bracelets.
The ultimate hardware.
His first came in 1996 in the $1,500 seven-card stud split tournament for $147,000. In 1997, he won the $2,000 no-limit hold'em event, which brought him his largest single career score of $259,150.
A massive win.
And his third came in 2002 in the $1,500 limit Omaha event.
Now, the Wikipedia biography specifically notes his specialty in Omaha high-low events. When you look at his bracelet in Seven Card Stud Split and his bracelet in Limit Omaha, a really distinct pattern emerges about his preferred battlegrounds.
Yeah, Limit Omaha and split pot games in general demand an entirely different kind of patience compared to No Limit Hold'em.
Absolutely.
In No Limit, a single mistake or a bad beat costs you your entire turn in life. It's
Yep.
over.
One hand and you're out.
But in Limit Omaha High-Low, you're constantly quartering opponents, chopping pots, and mitigating risk. So for a guy focused on longevity and surviving the bubble, a Limit split pot game seems like the ultimate vehicle for steady, low-variance accumulation. Do you think that patience is directly linked to his Iron Man survival rate?
Without a doubt, split pot games are incredibly complex. You are often simultaneously trying to make the highest hand and the lowest hand at the same time.
Right.
It requires tracking multiple possibilities and constantly recalibrating your odds based on the board texture. Managing a split pot poker hand is really like managing two intersecting flight paths.
That is a great analogy.
You have to see the whole board, not just your own narrow objective. By specializing in formats that limit variance and reward marginal mathematical edges over long, grueling sessions, he effectively insulated himself against the wild swings that bankrupt other professionals.
That insulation didn't protect him from the physical toll of the grind, though. The biography outlines a really dramatic event during the 2009 WSOP $2,500 Raz tournament. Cernuto collapsed right there in the middle of the event.
Right at the table.
He was rushed to the hospital, spent the night there, and was diagnosed with internal bleeding.
Internal bleeding is a critical, life-threatening situation.
Absolutely.
For a man in his mid-60s, experiencing that in the middle of a casino floor would be the definitive signal to retire for almost anyone else. The physical environment of tournament poker, sitting in freezing air conditioning for 12 hours a day, eating casino food, dealing with constant adrenaline spikes, it's incredibly taxing on the body.
Well, he clearly didn't view it as a retirement signal.
Not at all.
He recovered, and he returned to the tables. In fact, just a couple of years later, at the 2011 World Series of Poker main event, he made his best career placement in the World Championship, finishing in 345th place.
Unbelievable.
To navigate a field of thousands of players, grinding through day 4, day 5 of the longest tournament in the world, just a few years after a major hospitalization, it's a testament to an iron will.
The physical stamina required to make a deep run in the main event is hard to overstate. Every single decision is magnified, the lights are bright, and the fatigue is compounding hour after hour. For him to achieve his best main event result post-hospitalization speaks volumes about his character.
It really does.
It's pure, unfiltered grit. He possessed a profound refusal to be boxed out of the arena.
And that refusal to be boxed in extended to his choice of games as well. He wasn't just a WSOP grinder. In 2003, he traveled to Vienna and won the World Heads-Up Poker Championship, taking home a €60,000 prize.
That's a completely different format.
Totally different. He had to outlast heavy hitters like Scotty Nguyen and Rambaswamy in a format that strips away all multi-way dynamics and forces you to play almost every single hand.
But what's fascinating here is his versatility. The poker ecosystem is full of hyper-specialists. People who only play no-limit hold'em cash games or people who only grind pot limit Omaha online. But Cernuto was a true generalist.
Right.
Winning a heads-up championship against a master of table talk and psychological pressure like Scotty Nguyen requires an entirely different skill set than grinding out a Limit Omaha high-low tournament.
He also made 3 final tables on the World Poker Tour, cashed in the European Poker Tour, and even took his core framework outside of traditional poker entirely.
Oh yeah, the blackjack tournament.
Exactly. Our source notes mention he made a final table on the Ultimate Blackjack Tour, playing a television tournament format called Elimination Blackjack.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a profound truth about what it means to be a true master of a craft. Blackjack is structurally rigid. You're playing against the house, and the math is solved.
Right, there's a book for it.
But Elimination Blackjack introduces tournament elements. Timing, chip management, secret bets, and reacting to other players' positional bets to ensure you aren't the lowest stack at the elimination hands.
It becomes a survival game again.
Exactly. Cernuto could sit down at a completely foreign structure, assess the underlying mechanics of survival, and navigate his way to a final table. True mastery isn't just dominating one narrow niche. It's the ability to apply your foundational understanding of risk, reward, and human psychology to constantly changing rule sets.
It's as if his superpower was walking into any room, reverse engineering the mechanics of how to survive the specific game being played and just outlasting everyone else.
That was his true gift.
Which brings us to the accolades he collected over his long career. We mentioned he was known as Miami John, but in 2019, his close friend, the actor James Woods, officially dubbed him the Iron Man of poker.
That nickname carries serious historical weight because James Woods gave him that title when Cernuto officially became the all-time leader in poker tournament cashes.
To lead in all-time cashes means his bubble play was mathematically elite across decades.
Elite!
He knew exactly how to exploit the medium stacks who were tightening up just to make the money, while simultaneously avoiding the massive chip leaders who were looking to bully the table.
Surviving the bubble requires a highly delicate balance of aggression and extreme discipline. In tournament poker, the vast majority of the field goes home with absolutely zero return on their investment.
Nothing to show for it.
Nothing. To lead the world in cashes means you possess an almost supernatural ability to protect your tournament life. You have to know exactly when to leverage your fold equity and push your chips into the middle, and exactly when to lay down a strong hand to live and fight another orbit.
It's a high-wire act.
It is. Executing that high-wire act more times than anyone else on the planet cements his status as the ultimate survivor of the game.
And the poker industry formally recognized this unprecedented feat. In 2020, at the Global Poker Awards, he was honored with the Distinguished Hendon Mob Award, given specifically to recognize his lifetime tournament cashes record.
The Hendon Mob is the gold standard database for live poker tournament results. It tracks every recorded cash globally.
Right, it's the encyclopedia.
Exactly. To receive an award named after the very institution that meticulously logs every player's successes and failures is the highest form of validation a professional can receive. It is the record book itself stepping forward to acknowledge that your name appears more frequently than any other human being's.
It's a fitting capstone to an extraordinary journey. But as we noted at the top of our deep dive, that journey did come to an end. John Cernuto passed away from colon cancer on February 10th, 2025. He was 81 years old.
81 years of an incredibly full, dynamic, and challenging life.
So, what does this all mean? When we step back and look at the whole picture of the Wikipedia biography we've analyzed today, how do we distill the legacy of the Iron Man of poker?
I think John Cernuto's life is a testament to the power of a forced pivot. Sometimes, having your planned trajectory forcibly wiped out is the exact catalyst required to unlock a potential you never knew you had.
That's a great point.
Secondly, his career highlights the unmatched compounding value of consistency. You don't need to win every single tournament, and you don't need to be the most famous player in the room. But you have to keep showing up, adapting to the new rules, and surviving the bubble year after year.
Just keep showing up.
Keep showing up. And finally, it shows the sheer mental flexibility required to master multiple disciplines. Whether you are tracking intersecting flight paths on a radar screen, calculating split pot odds in Omaha, or recovering in a hospital bed to play the main event, the mindset of a survivor is universal.
I think the way he mapped his analytical aviation skills onto a casino game is one of the most brilliant career transitions we've explored. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope this look into the life, the streak, and the strategic mastery of John Cernuto has inspired you to keep adapting to the unexpected changes in your own environment.
And I'll leave you with this final thought to mull over on your own. When an unexpected external event completely derails your carefully planned trajectory, like suddenly losing a stable career, do you see it as a catastrophic dead end? Or as the terrifying but liberating freedom to sit down at a brand new table, learn the rules, and become the Iron Man at an entirely different game?